So أبنائهن وأبناء بعولتهن أو إخوانهن أو بني إخوانهن. What's بني إخوانهن? Nephews, nieces and nephews. أو بني أخواتهن, from the sister's side. Okay, so your brother's kids, your sister's kids. أو نسائهن. أو نسائهن. Or extensively, women of the same clan, but also nisa'ihinna. Some have interpreted women, Muslim women. Nisa'ihinna, the dhamir of it, going back to their women is all Muslim women. Actually, there was one incident in Indian tradition. It was an alim when the British had taken over, that some British patron guy came to their house, and the wife went into the women's section, and the women they kept their hijabs on, and he said, "Our women have hijab even from your women." Because it's just nisa'ihinna. You're not our women. Because the dhamir is there, right? So he interpreted it in that way. Allahu a'lam, that's a shari'i discussion. But anyway, but among their women it's fine. أو نسائهن أو ما ملكت أيمانهن, or whatever their right hands possess. Now the right possession of the right hand is only talked about most of the time what men possess. Right? But who's possessing here? Women. Slavery was a phenomenon. Whatever they own as slaves. I mean, these are people that they've had for a long time, and there's a sub-discussion, what if there are men? What if they're older men? Does that include them, etc.? That's a fiqhi thing. But this socially doesn't exist for us anymore. And you can't say, well, we hired a janitor and that covers malakat aymanuhunna. It doesn't. Okay? This is the interesting part. Wa awit tabi'ina, and those that are followers, the followers here means dependents. Tabi'in are dependents. Okay, they follow your household, they're under your authority. غَيْرِ أُولِي الْإِرْبَةِ. What a word. غَيْرِ أُولِي الْإِرْبَةِ. Followers that are no longer, or that are non-possessors of al-irba. Irba in Arabic, originally, I'll tell you what the raw meaning here is attraction towards women, or the ability to engage in intimacy with a woman. That's irba. But then, what is the linguistic origin? قَدْ أَرِبَ الرَّجُلُ إِذَا احْتَاجَ إِلَى الشَّيْءِ وَطَلَبَهُ. Ariba is used as a verb for a man who needs something, or wants something, or asks for something. Al-irbu wal-irbatu wal-urbatu wal-arbu ad-daha. Actually, cunning, slickness, playa mode is also called irba. So people that are under you that no longer have the player feature accessible, meaning somebody's like 85, grandpa, right? Or somebody that's, somebody that is sick, terminally ill, or mentally, somewhat disabled, right? People like that, there are exceptions made for them. Because they don't have that. And by the way, irba includes the slyness to wanna to do something, right? Irba is also used from mahara, actually. Ariba bishay'i dariba bihi wa sara fihi mahiran basiran fahuwa arbun aw aribun. Somebody who has a lot of cunning and keeps an eye on things and is very watchful of his surroundings and is kind of looking for an opportunity all the time is also called an arib. So basically, this is not most men. This does not include most men. It includes very old people. This includes, people that are people that are bedridden, for example, people like that. Those are the situations that are being talked about. Min al-rijal, out of men. Awit tifl, or the category of children, and it's talking about all kinds of children. That's why atfal was not used. The ism jama' is used to describe that this is a universal phenomenon among children. الَّذِينَ لَمْ يَظْهَرُوا عَلَىٰ عَوْرَاتِ النِّسَاءِ. Also very interesting language. الَّذِينَ لَمْ يَظْهَرُوا عَلَىٰ عَوْرَاتِ النِّسَاءِ. Ar in Arabic has several meanings. One of them is shame. One of the meanings is shame. Awra, a woman should cover her awra. Probably you've heard that expression before. Okay. Interestingly, Urdu language uses the word aurat for woman itself, but awra in Arabic is something that you're ashamed of and something that should be covered and hidden away. Okay. Urdu. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, So أو الطفل الذين لم يظهروا على عورات النساء ظهر على in Arabic, one of its meanings is for something to become apparent to you. You know the ayah in Surah Al-Kahf, إنهم إن يظهروا عليكم يرجموكم أو يعيدوكم في ملتهم, right? What that means is no doubt if those people, one of the meanings of it is no doubt if those people find out about you, if they discover you, if they figure out who you are, then they are going to pelt you, stone you to death, etc. So لم يظهروا على عورات النساء, it's kind of a weird translation, but the children upon whom the how do I put awrat in ways that's not inappropriate? Awrat is aspects of or physical characteristics of women that are attractive, that they should be covering. Okay, and he hasn't actually discovered them yet. He hasn't felt like, oh my God, that looks beautiful. She looks beautiful. They haven't discovered that, meaning simple translation would be they haven't hit puberty yet. They haven't hit puberty yet. But I would argue something else in contemporary times. Because children are exposed to the dating scene and prom night and who's your girlfriend in second grade, that sort of thing, very early now. I think we have to set the standards a little differently. Because they are, and Allah didn't mention an age. You know, there's ayat where Allah mentions reaching the age of puberty, which I consider part of the wisdom of this ayah. Bulughul hulum in Arabic, to reach the age of puberty. Okay? But this is lam yadhharu ala awrat nisa, children that haven't realized that women look pretty yet. Children that it hasn't hit them yet that, oh my God. So that could happen. Some kids lose their innocence sooner than others, especially in a corrupt time like ours where there's so much exposure. So you have to watch it. And what this ayah does, it actually also gives us the sense that we should have a pretty good psychological understanding of where our children are. What they're exposed to, how they think. You know, because how would you know that this kid has an attraction to women or not, or he has these thoughts or not, or he's exposed or not? You have to keep a close eye on the child and observe their behavior without them even knowing. For you to know that this kid's got a little situation. I see how he looks at women. I see how he looks at the girls. I see how she does this, or he does this. So this is الطفل الذين لم يظهروا على عورات النساء. So these are the people around whom you don't have to worry so much. You can be yourself. Your nieces, nephews, kids, old people, in-laws, etc. So there's a list of people's list of these family members is made, and for each of them, the level of zina you expose is a personal call. Like I said, you have to make a sensible call that works for your family. Okay, you have to make a sensible call. Now, وَلَا يَضْرِبْنَا بِأَرْجُلِهِنَّ. And just again, before I go on, just a personal note again. In our family, for example, for my wife, when my father is around, she still takes hijab. She still does. She's more comfortable that way. And my dad's not like offended by that. Like, why is she doing that? He's not offended. And there are some families where the father-in-law is offended. He's like, why are you covering? What am I? Some ghair? You know? But this needs to develop, a sensitivity needs to be developed. If the woman, the daughter-in-law is not comfortable, and if she feels this is the level of zina she's okay with exposing in this setting, then that's her call. And you have to let that go. You know? I think personally husbands should have a right to tell or to mention within, of course, the limits of deen, okay, you need to be a little more conservative in this setting. But husbands should not have the right to tell the wife, you need to be less conservative in this. Because that has to do with the sense of haya of a woman. And that puts a woman in a very difficult, perturbed situation. Okay, being more protective is easier. Letting your guard go is more difficult. It's more damaging. Okay. Anyway, Allahu Ta'ala alam. So now the fun part of the ayah as we conclude. وَلَا يَضْرِبْنَا بِأَرْجُلِهِنَّ. And they shouldn't, you should translate that for me. وَلَا يَضْرِبْنَا. They should not strike. بِأَرْجُلِهِنَّ. With their feet. Noisy, clip-clop heels. And if you're not wearing heels, you got a lot of jewelry on. You know, there's a way to walk where when you walk, you don't hear the jewelry, But then there is a way to walk with ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. In other words, when you walk, how heavily you strike your foot will expose or will make your presence known. So on the one hand, the ayah was talking about protect yourself from being seen. But now that you're protected from being seen and all your jewelry's on the inside and all of that, you decide that you're going to wear like this super ultimate, hijab, even you throw in a couple of niqabs on top or whatever, but you're dressed like Mr. T underneath, and you want people to know that you just walked by. So you just kind of go, ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. So Allah's saying that's defeating the purpose. You're still trying to get attention. It's very wise that Allah says that, what? I'm still covered. What? I'm still wearing a top. Actually, the ayah is teaching us that one of the most obvious ways that a female can get attention without even saying anything, without singing a song and saying, look at me, I look so beautiful. Didn't you realize I just walked by? Etc., etc. She could do this just by the step of her feet and just striking the foot a little harder. And nowadays, women don't have to strike it so hard. What can they just wear? Heels. Like cluck, 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 cluck. And no man just walked by. Yeah. Cluck, cluck. You don't like that one? Clip, clop. Is that better? Tuck, tuck. Okay. I don't know. I like cluck, cluck. So this is, and then what's really cool is they shouldn't strike their feet, and some women are like, I shouldn't walk? Shouldn't strike my feet? Or I can never stomp? Because the ayah says, وَلَا يَضْرِبْنَا بِأَرْجُلِهِنَّ. So you're mad at home, the kids spilled chocolate milk all over the white carpet or something, and you're like, oh, and he says, وَلَا يَضْرِبْنَا بِأَرْجُلِهِنَّ. Like you can't do that. No, because it's actually lam at-ta'lil. Why can't you strike your feet like that? لِيُعْلَمَ. Now you guys have to help me translate. How do you translate لِيُعْلَمَ? So it is known. It's passive, yeah? So that it is known. لِيُعْلَمَ, so that it is known. Now what is known? مَا يُخْفِينَ. أخفى, give me the sarf. أخفى يخفي. Wait, يخفي. The entire sarf kabir. هو يخفي, هما يخفيان, هم يخفون, هي تخفي, هما تخفيان. مريم خان, هن يخفينا. Not تخفينا. Very good. هن يخفينا. أخفى means to hide. ما يخفينا, what they are hiding. من زينتهن, out of their beauty. In other words, they shouldn't strike their feet to make known that I got a lot of beautiful things hiding. Allah made me hide it all, but I'm going to give you a hint with my clipper clopper. You're defeating the purpose. You know what this part of the ayah does? It teaches us that the concept of khimar, the concept of ibda'uz zina, it starts with clothing, but it also has to do with gesture, with body language, with how you carry yourself, right? It's not just clothing. It's very powerful, because there are workarounds to that. You could be dressed very conservatively and still be very attractive to men in other ways. You could still expose your beauty in other ways. You could be sly about it. It's very possible. So Allah took one of the most popular ways, which is also at the same time one of the slickest ways, because it's not something you can call somebody on. Why are you walking? Well, I'm just walking. So this can only be something that a person can themselves stop. Nobody else can stop it for them. Because they could just say, that's just how I walk. What? That's just how I walk. What are you talking about? I'm not doing anything. This can only be prevented by the person of conscience themselves. A woman can only do this herself. She can't be told not to do this. Right? And then again, you're reminded of the third person, يَضْرِبْنَا. Third person is far away, personal responsibility. You're going to have to do this on your own. وَلَا يَضْرِبْنَا بِأَرْجُلِهِنَّ لِيُعْلَمَ مَا يُخْفِينَ مِنْ زِينَتِهِنَّ. So that everything they've been trying to hide is known. Now, the other question is, it still can't be known. It still can't be known, because even if you're walking in a provocative way, and you're trying to get attention, you're still covered up. So how is it known? What Allah is mentioning here is the imagination of those around. They're going to start imagining it. And that's bad. That's not good, that you're trying to make them imagine. You know? وَلَا يَضْرِبْنَ بِأَرْجُلِهِنَّ لِيُعْلَمَ مَا يُخْفِينَ مِنْ زِينَتِهِنَّ. So now he says all of this, subhanallah, and then he concludes, وَتُوبُوا إِلَى اللَّهِ. Why is tawbah mentioned? Not even a separate ayah. And tubu is women or men and women? Men and women. Men and women. Now you know, one of the first thoughts I have is the previous ayah is for men, the next ayah is for women. But then also, who is in a position, we are both in a position to help each other accomplish this, right? And sometimes men help women violate this rule, and sometimes women help men violate this rule. And so not just for themselves, but what they help the other do, they should make tawbah. Right? So for example, if a husband says to his wife, come on, it's Eid. All of my friends are coming. No jilbab today, no hijab today, come on. I'm okay with it, why are you not okay with it? So he pushed her to take it off. He did that. He needs to make tawbah. She needs to make tawbah that she didn't stand her ground. Tubu ilallah. Okay? So watubu ilallah, return back to Allah, make tawbah to Allah. And by the way, tawbah is done when you have something that hurts you spiritually. Because taba yatubu means to come back, spiritually speaking. Taba yatubu is to come back. So you're coming back to Allah, which means you did something that took you where? Away from Allah. Which is by the end of the ayah, Allah is still explaining to us that these things have spiritual consequences. These things hurt our iman. Okay, these principles are there to protect our iman. And you need to revive your iman, you need to bring back tawbah. You need to come back to Allah. Tubu ilallah. Jami'an. What does that mean? All of you together. So it's interesting, there's dichotomy now. On the one hand, we have individual instruction being given, something that you can only do as an individual. Khimar, ibda'uz zina, this stuff you have to take personal responsibility for this stuff. You and I have to guard our eyes. We have to take personal responsibility for this stuff. But when it came to tawbah, he said, Tubu ilallahi jami'an. And in it there's a beautiful lesson for us that the first thing we need to call people towards is not khimar, is not guarding the eyes. What's the first thing we call people towards? Tawbah. That's the collective call. Tubu ilallahi jami'an. And then from there you will understand, you can, in the spirit of tawbah, help people understand why they need to protect their eyes. Tubu ilallahi jami'an. Ayyuhal mu'minun. That's also beautiful. That even people of real iman will make this mistake. Al-mu'min. In other words, why would a mu'min have to make tawbah? Because the iman's already there. These mistakes will happen and you'll have to continue to make tawbah. There's something I was studying in some linguistics book about the munada. It's not an Arabic concept, but it's actually a general linguistics concept about when you call somebody, depending on when you call them in the beginning or at the end. So if I say, Nasser, did you do your homework? I called Nasser in the beginning. But if I say, did you do your homework, Nasser? I said Nasser at the end, right? That actually when you say it, when you call somebody's name in the beginning, it's actually far more alarming, scary, threatening, and it actually leaves the person wondering what's coming. So it actually, it scares the person. So for example, Nudiya ya Musa. It was called Musa. Terrifying. Inni ana rabbuk, and so on and so forth. But when you say what you had to say and then you mention, وَمَا تِلْكَ بِيَمِينِكَ Ya Musa, have you taken the mystery, the surprise, the threat even away? You have. And actually, naturally, subconsciously even, it is actually a calming thing to do. For example, I say, I pick up Husna from school, I say, how's your day, Husna? How's your day, Husna? Non-threatening. Husna? Husna? Yeah? How's your day? Oh God. Why didn't you put the harfun nida at the end, Abba? Because when you put it in the beginning, it creates a kind of iltibas that, you see? But Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, Tubu ilallahi jami'an, lovingly, ayyuhal mu'minun. And you know where else? Everywhere else in the Quran, Allah doesn't say ayyuhal mu'minun. He says, ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu. And ayyuha is used here, not ya ayyuha. Ya is ya at-tanbih. Ya is there to get your attention more. It's as though Allah is saying, I know you're already paying attention. And you're paying more attention than just the regular community of believers, because alladhina amanu is the verbal form, which includes all kinds of believers, but the closest believers, the ones who have firm faith, their faith is described with the nominal form, al-mu'minun. And so the less attention needs to be garnered from you, because you're already giving me attention, just ayyuhal mu'minun. Tubu ilallah, ayyuhal mu'minun. Not tubu ilallah, ya ayyuhal mu'minun. Believers. Just make tawbah, believers. It's so loving. لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. Hopefully you can be successful. And what is Allah saying? Just because you have iman now doesn't mean that you'll be successful. Just because you have iman now is not guaranteed. And everything else is in place, but you didn't put this in place. You didn't make tawbah from this stuff. And tawbah is specific to the ayah. So there's tawbah for all kinds of things. But here it's tawbah about ibda'u zina. It's tawbah about the principles that Allah said about interaction. Make tawbah from this stuff. Very unique ayah in Quran. I'd be hard pressed to find another ayah like this one. Like that articulates the call of believers to obey Him out of a spiritual want of getting closer to Him. Usually the ahkam, actually many of the ahkam are associated with taqwa, not tawbah. A lot of the ahkam, if you look at the ahkam of divorce, if you look at the ahkam of inheritance, if you look at the ahkam of, a husband violating the rights of the wife, etc., or iddah and all of that, taqwa, here tawbah. And tawbah is above that stage. Tawbah is actually when somebody is being drawn closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. Something very beautiful. Tubu ilallahi jami'an, ayyuhal mu'minun, la'allakum tuflihun. And finally, just a brief comment about tuflihun, and I'll conclude, and I'll inshallah take your questions. Aflaha yuflihu, iflahan. The fallahi, or the fallah in Arabic actually, is the farmer. Fallah is a farmer. And the farming is an interesting line of work because you get paid once a year. You work, we're used to jobs that are bi-weekly, weekly, monthly salary, but the farmer's salary is once in an entire year, okay? Because crop season, harvest season, right? That's when he gets paid. He has to work the entire year or no? He's got to work the entire year and then get paid that one time. So in farming societies all over the world, you have major festivals, celebrations, carnivals, feasts during harvest season. Special dances, the village is decorated, because it's the one day you get paid, And all of the labor of the entire year summed up to this one season, this one event. Are there dangers along the way? The crop, maybe it didn't rain, maybe there's a drought, maybe there's an infection, maybe the soil's no good, maybe the seed was bad. All this work, you're putting seeds every few inches, you're dropping a seed into the ground, one after the other, after the other, after the other, only to find out it didn't grow. It's got to be heartbreaking. Night after night making dua whether it rains or not, looking for weeds, looking for infestations, all this kind of stuff. So then when he reaches the harvest, then actually in that season he's called a muflih. Because he is finally successful after doing exhaustive amounts of labor. The word muflihun, or la'allakum tuflihun, suggests that you become successful, but successful after putting exhaustive amounts of work into something. The indication in the ayah is these principles are not easy to abide by until you put a lot of work into them, and eventually you'll see the fruits of that labor. You're not going to become a different person overnight. That doesn't happen. It'll take work, but you'll have to agree to do this and start making your way back to Allah, and you will see the fruits of your labor. You'll see eventually the fruits of your labor. There are people, when you make these kinds of efforts and put these kinds of restrictions in place, and we've only done one ayah of Surah An-Nur, there's so many, right? On so many restrictions and so many beautiful rules to follow. I mentioned there are 14 sections, right, in my intro to this dars. if you start abiding by those, there are people that are going to say, why you do that? Why are you making life so hard? What's the point of it? The point of it is at the end of all this labor, لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. People who ask, what's the point of it, don't understand, like when a kid who's asking the farmer, why are you putting that in the ground? Why is he doing all this work just to put a little thing in the ground? What's the point of that? You may not see the point right now, it'll take about a year. It'll take a few seasons before you see the point, right? So that's the thing here. We have to wait. We have to be patient with the results of this, the benefits of this in our lives and the lives of others. Especially at a time where family is disintegrating, these values are so important. We don't even realize the effect they have, not just on, you're not just abiding by one hukum, by, not exposing your beauty too much. And I'm not even limiting that to khimar, inshallah. Maybe if we get time, we'll do the ayah of jilbab too, inshallah, right? Just so with this conversation, the whole outfit is done. This is half the outfit, But you're protecting yourself from so many subsequent problems. Girl looks beautiful because of her own, maybe she went out of her way to beautify herself. Young girl, 12, 13-year-old in public school because she has low self-esteem. Now that she looks beautiful, this boy can't help himself, comes up to her, gives her a note. One thing leads to another. Then she's running away from home 2 years from now. I love this boy. I have to live with him. And then this Muslim girl living with the other guy's family, and she's converting to Christianity and all of that. I've seen it. And it all started with, she looked pretty at school. She didn't know how to hide her beauty and didn't know how to carry herself at school, right? So and imagine if that happens to 1 million people, 10 million people. We're talking about an entire generation of Islam lost. Lost to another faith, lost to shaitan. It's just lost. Just because we didn't abide by this, something so basic, so straightforward. So when Allah's Messenger says, teach your women this, I could see why. I could see why. And of course, when you teach your women, who's going to teach them? Because the alimu includes men and women. And to teach something, what do you have to do? You have to know it. So the brilliance of the ayah isn't women should learn, but teach your women. عَلِّمُوا نِسَاءَكُمْ, which means you have to know it better than your students. So the men and women who are teaching have to know it better than the ones they're teaching, right? So it kind of included the learning for all, but a special focus on women. With that, I conclude the study of this ayah. Inshallah ta'ala, barakallahu li wa lakum fi al-Qur'an al-Hakim, wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum al-ayati wa dhikr al-Hakim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'll take some questions and then we can go home.